Dear Diary. You can't spell discouragement without courage. I picked that title because there are going to be a few things that are going to require some courage, some introspection, and some honesty with ourselves when it comes to how we deal with discouragement. Fun fact, you also can't spell discouragement without disc, disco, is, scour, hour, rag, rage, raged, age, aged, and ed. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining me here on the Keto Quarantine channel. As usual, I am Jon Jay. I am your host, your best friend, and your chunky hunk. Be sure to stick around to the end of the video to find out how weight loss went in week 2 and to see how I'm doing on my goal to do a push-up. Yes, a push-up. In our last episode, we talked about how to set goals, make plans for those goals, and then how to execute them. If you haven't seen it, I'd encourage you to pause this video and go watch that first. Or if you're on YouTube, you can click the little card thing up here in the corner. I mention it because this week we're going to flip the coin and look at the not so shiny side. Discouragement. Because let there be no doubt, discouragement will strike. Whether it's circumstances outside of our control, poor choices we've made, or maybe it's just not meeting some of the goals we talked about last week. It'll happen, but how do we deal with it? Before we get going, let me remind you to click like, subscribe with the bell, leave a comment, let's start a discussion about this topic. Also, one of the best things you can do to help this channel grow is share this video. And watch time. I need more watch time. If you'd like to drop me a couple bucks, go ahead and head on over to ketoquarantine.show and have a look. Thanks. Discouragement. What is it? The Oxford Dictionary defines discouragement as a loss of confidence or enthusiasm, dispiritedness. Now, we all experience discouragement from time to time, but what's the difference between those people who kind of go right through it and those of us who kind of get stuck in it? Simply put, sometimes we have discouragement and sometimes discouragement has us. One of the themes you may have noticed on this channel is that of trying to live life mindfully, intentionally living. That is putting careful and deliberate thought into how we structure our lives and the things that we put our energy and our time into. And also putting the right tools in our toolbox to deal with difficult situations, not if, but when they come up. Essentially, we want to combine the best of psychology and neurology to sort of biohack our brains for better living. You see, though we only have one brain, y'all, we were fearfully and wonderfully made. We came straight from the factory with 2 operating systems installed. One for survival and one for critical thinking. Our primal brain is housed in the medulla and the hindbrain and is responsible for instinct, drive, and survival. Our more modern brain is based in the frontal cortex and is responsible for problem solving, memory, language, judgment, impulse control, and reasoning. One brain sees everything as a mortal threat and the other brain can rationally discern what's really going on. But your frontal cortex doesn't work so well when you're in fight or flight mode, all amped up on adrenaline and instinct. Part of the purpose of this channel is to understand our own inner workings as we move through the weight loss process and to tweak those things to our advantage. We don't just want to know the what of weight loss. We all know what weight loss is. We want to go further to know the underlying why and the strategic how of it all. When discouragement strikes, our primal brain will interpret this negative emotional state as being much more dire than it actually is. And if we haven't packed the right tools ahead of time, how are we going to combat this negative neurology? If we don't, we can wallow in this negative downward spiral for a very long time, even years. Ask me how I know. Okay, sorry. Nerd time is over. Sorry, Chad. Yeah, right. It's always awkward o'clock around here. See? Told you. Welcome aboard the SS Dipshirt. Dad jokes ahoy. When you're working on a project and you don't have the tool you need, or even worse, you've been given the wrong tool, what are you supposed to do? Get the right tool, dummy. So what are some tools that we can have ready to go in our toolkit to combat discouragement when it comes up? This isn't at all an exhaustive list, and it's not in any particular order, but maybe one or two will speak to you and be of use to you. And as always, feel free to comment down below to talk about any other strategies that you know of that are effective in the fight against discouragement. Or don't. I don't care. Do what you want. I'm not your dad. Links, as usual, are down on the Donkey Kong below. Tool number 1. Acknowledge your discouragement to yourself. An important part of rewiring our brains in the midst of negativity is being self-aware enough to recognize what these negative emotions are and name them. Literally, make words come out of your human mouth hole and name those negative emotions, even if only quietly to yourself. Please do it quietly to yourself, you weirdo. Language use can play a critical role in transitioning us from the hyper-emotional, irrational medulla brain to the more thoughtful, critical thinking frontal cortex. These complementary brain systems can often conflict, and one usually has the wheel while the other's just a passenger. Using language in a difficult emotional situation is like grabbing the wheel from Medulla Manny and throwing him in the trunk where he belongs. One of my girls has, yeah, I said one of them. 1, 2, 3. I have 3 daughters. One of them has a bit of a temper like her daddy. And as she's grown, I've tried to equip her with the tools that I honestly didn't have growing up. And a real solid strategy that I tell her is, when you're angry, name your anger. Not just inside your brain. Verbally, with your mouth, make the words come out. Say, I am angry at, or I am angry because. This has helped to short circuit that hyper emotional loop in the back of the brain and move things forward to more reasonable, rational thoughts. Don't get me wrong, emotions are great. As I said, these are complementary systems and we wouldn't do well without one or the other. But when our system is infused with adrenaline, we have a real hard time seeing the situation clearly or thinking straight. Our bodies are either ready to rock and roll or run away. Tool number 2. What are you good at? Do it to the best of your ability. Or maybe you've taken the advice in the previous video and written down some goals for yourself. Pick one of those for today or this week and knock it out of the park. Hammer away on it until it's done. Pick an achievable goal. Checking that box can really give you a leg up emotionally and mentally. And doing so will more easily stop negative Nancy screaming in the back of your head, and instead begin a much more positive feedback loop. Confidence begets success. Success begets confidence. Celebrate this success. No, not like that. Tool number 3. Fix your physical situation. Make sure you're doing things here in the meat space that will encourage better health. Things that will make you physically feel better and take the edge off of those negative emotions. Hold your head up. Smile. Our primal brains aren't very bright, so physically doing these things, as well as talking, will force it to think, well, heck, here I was all worried about her, but she got good posture, she's smiling at people, maybe I did overreact. This is one part fake it till you make it and one part solid neurological science. Also, make sure you're getting enough sleep, getting enough water, getting enough sunlight, getting enough exercise. I don't want to! The links between tending to these everyday needs is well established and should not be ignored. Tool number 4. Self-reflection is so important. As soon as you're not in the midst of the initial hyper-emotional whirlwind because you've been using some of these strategies, take some me time to think, to pray, to meditate, whatever it is you need to do to elicit a more introspective mindset. When reflecting on the thing or things that have brought your discouragement up, be sure to do so analytically and not emotionally. Really study it and be honest with yourself. Could you have done something to avoid this? Was there any point along this path that you could have changed the trajectory of the situation? Are you taking full ownership and responsibility for your part in all this? Or is there any blame shifting in your thinking? What if it is legitimately entirely somebody else's doing that has caused you to become so discouraged? What do you do then? How can you calmly and respectfully address it with them? Can you? Should you? Only you can answer that. What about forgiveness? Are you letting a root of bitterness take hold? Let me tell you, rip it up by the root. Work through your issues and move on. A very wise person once taught me that bitterness is taking the poison yourself and waiting for the other person to die. It ain't going to turn out like you hope. Tool number 5. Serve and encourage others. One of the most profoundly positive impacts you can have on your mental and emotional well-being is to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Volunteer at a soup kitchen. Mentor a young person. Donate your time to a charitable cause. Then look around at the people you're serving What needs do they have? What cares are they carrying? How has life beaten them up? And perhaps most importantly, what can I do to help them? What can you do to help them? You know, getting beyond our prideful, selfish selves is a difficult and demanding task, but it's essential in getting perspective. It's essential in exercising empathy. Disappointment will tell you that you're suffering in solitude. Not true. When you broaden your view and you look outside of yourself, you may realize that your situation really isn't the worst. Maybe it's not as bad as their situation or their situation. And maybe, just maybe, we can be the answer to someone else's need. This is obviously advice outside of medical issues or chemical imbalances. See your doctor, please. But other than those situations, guys, this is the antidote to discouragement, despondency, depression, all the D's. You know, the church I go to before the whole superbug thing happened used to send teams of volunteers to Mexico to help build houses, to serve in orphanages, to bless the people down there. And the teams are anywhere from middle school on up through senior citizens. It's amazing when you send the average American kid to a third world country, especially one so close to their own backyard. It's eye-opening and radically life-changing when you really take the time to see these beautiful people in this lovely culture who are so generous. They give you the last bit of food they have in their cupboards, and they literally have cardboard walls for houses. And our kids come home changed because they see, my life's not so bad. I took the time to get out of myself and serve somebody who is in way more need than me, and they shamed me with their hospitality and their love and their grace. Maybe it's not so bad after all. Maybe I can deal with my own disappointment. Okay, I know I said 5, but bonus tool time. Oh no, sorry. Ed's sleeping. He's all tuckered out. Poor little oh! I'll just put this down. Bonus tool time. Find a friend or a mentor that you admire that has it all figured out. Because I guarantee you, if they're being honest about it, they totally don't. Sit down and ask someone that you respect if they've ever felt discouraged. What were they discouraged by? How did they cope with it? What brought them out of it? Doing this simple exercise can not only rewire your brain as you practice positive reinforcement, as well as exercising empathy. Again, it puts your focus on someone outside of yourself. And incidentally, it can also give you some perspective or practical advice on your own situation, or maybe how to avoid this pitfall in the future. And hey, if you're alone and you don't have anybody there for you, I'm here for you. Reach out on any of these platforms I'm on and let's chat. I promise I'm not as dumb as I look. That's it for now. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you next week. Oh wait, I almost forgot. I lost 3.5 pounds in week 2. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I couldn't do a push-up still if you paid me. Yet. Bye. The SS dip shirt. People think I'm actually using Wordy Dirt, but I'm not. This is a 100% clean, family-friendly channel. You bet your donkey!